The recording will be shared with you, as well as the other participants who were not able to attend but would have liked to. I also will let you know that my face and name is the only person that will be seen on this video, so everybody else will be kept in privacy. Throughout this presentation, you will have a Q&A at the bottom of your screen or somewhere along your Zoom screen. Please feel free at any time to pop in a question or a thought or a suggestion, and we'll tend to those the second half of the meeting. So I'll probably use about the first 30-ish minutes to do an overview on a variety of topics, and then we'll spend the last chunk of the presentation to do some Q&A. But also, I'd love to hear from you and share your opinions or suggestions, or maybe even pose a question that would go out to the other parents here and not just for myself. So let's use that Q&A in a variety of ways. In the survey that I gave, or the RSVP that I gave to this meeting last week, I asked if you had any particular questions that you would like to come in with to get answered. And there were quite a large array of questions and what you were looking for. So I'm really trying to capture them all in this meeting. And so with that, we're going to see some updates from our district, from what our district has been presenting on distance learning. Those are primarily for option A folks, but we do have some option B current families that are interested in hearing what's going on with option A back at Mountain View and Los Altos. So we'll spend a little bit of time with some insight on that. We'll talk about the processes of switching to option A for those who are interested in that. Switch or staying in option B for those of you that are interested in that, as well as what are some updates, changes, what's staying the same for option B next semester. So again, quite a variety that some may meet your needs and what you're looking for today, and not all of it, but some of those other aspects are meeting the needs of our other attendees today. So thank you for being here and joining us. So to get started with the district updates, we are currently in distance learning. We've opened some hybrids. We've had some cohorts, excuse me. We've had conversations about hybrid. So I want to share with you where these conversations are at, what is being said, so that we're all on the same page as an option B group. This is one of the slides that we've been communicating with our board and our community of what it takes to get to that final stage of being back in traditional return. For a while, when we were in the orange, this red circle, which is our current status, was over the 3, which was these were our cohorts. We started our cohorts, we were starting to expand the cohorts, and then our county moved back into the purple tier, and that shifted our red just a little bit back more into a remote learning. We had to pause our cohorts from expanding. And so this is our current status of our return, or where we're at the Mountain View Los Altos sites. The cohorts that we are currently implementing are bringing students on campus for some instructional support, some for Wi-Fi, some for just structure and support. Some is very tailored for a particular need. But we have about 9 to 10 cohorts at Mountain View, and also the same at Los Altos, again, for a variety of reasons that we are, and a cohort, by the way, is roughly around 14 students, 1 to 2 adult supervisors, and they're there for a niche, a targeted reason to give them support. And this was our first stage of bringing students on campus, is by doing it in these small groups. In addition to implementing cohorts, we are also having conversations about a hybrid return plan. We don't know when we're able to return in hybrid, but we want to be prepared with the plan so that when we are able to, we're set to go and we've thought through all of the logistics and the needs. Just to clarify, so we're all on the same page with the definition of hybrid, it's referring to an educational model where some of the days or some of the classes that the students are in are at home being learned remotely, and some of those days or some of those classes are at the high school with their teacher, with some of their peers, not all of them, because the population is split into half or thirds to create a smaller population size for safety back on campus. So it's a mix between traditional and distance learning. Get a little bit of both during the week. This is an example, a pretty popular model that's used by a lot of high schools, where the whole student population is divided in half, perhaps by alpha sort, A through L, M through Z. And one population comes on Monday and Tuesday and attends all of their classes with half of their peers, with their teachers, while the other half of the school population is at home learning remotely for those classes. And then on Thursday, Friday, it rotates to where now the at-home group is at school in traditional setting, learning with half of their peers, with their teachers, and the other group then shifts to being remote in those classes still, but learning remotely. And there's lots of variations, lots of different types of models of what a hybrid looks like, as well as what does the instruction of a hybrid look like. There's two major instructional models for hybrid. One is called synchronous learning or live streaming, where the students that are at home remote learning are still on Zoom, watching what's taking place in class, perhaps participating on the lessons and the activities that are going on. And the other instructional model is asynchronous, and that's where the group at home is working on asynchronous lessons. And when they go in person, then obviously they're working synchronously. And we're still really diving into the benefits and the considerations and the concerns between each of these instructional models, as well as hybrid models, to make a decision what works best for our students, our staff, our school. And with this being said, a solidified decision is not made at this time. And I know that there are some parents or students that have asked, if I want to go back to option A and we're starting out remote and we go back to hybrid, can I stay remote still in option A? What are my choices? And again, because we have not made a decision on what our model or instructional looks like, it is not at the point to where we can confirm or deny that being in option A means you can stay remote for the whole entire semester. But what I will say to those families who are asking that question, and I know it's not all of them, it's a few of you, is let's have a conversation between you and I. I want to make sure that your child is being supported. I want to hear what the situation is, and I want to really try to decide and work out a best solution for you. And so shoot me an email, send me an email. Let's set up a meeting, because I really want to support you and the needs right now. So with that said, we're using, as a district right now, we're in the process of approving this with our board next week, of what does it look like and when we will return, whether it be in person fully or in hybrid or staying in cohorts. And we're using what the state and, quite honestly, the nation uses with these colored tiers. We're using the data that also has directed them of when they close or add more restrictions to the different facilities and organizations to support safety and prevention. And so what we would look at is following those same tiers. And when we're in purple, we would be staying in complete distance learning. If there's cohorts, we can maintain those current cohorts, but we would not be expanding. When we move to red, we would be deemed able to expand a few of our targeted cohorts, but as a whole school, we're remaining in distance learning. When we move to orange, we can possibly consider a hybrid depending on where these numbers are at. And by the way, it takes 2 weeks to move from one tier to the next. So we have to be stable with the certain data. So we have to make sure our numbers are not rising above our data for 2 weeks before we can move to a new tier. So as an example, once our data in purple flat lines for the purple tier, so it hasn't increased for 2 weeks, then we move to red. And if we stay in red and our data is not increasing to the numbers beyond the red, so we stay within those parameters of red for 2 weeks, then we move to orange. So that can also help you consider time frame, right? If we come back in January and we're in purple, and our numbers flatline, it'll take 2 weeks in January before we can even move to red. And then we have to stay in red for 2 more weeks, so that's almost a full month, right, before we can move to orange. And so there's these time frames also that we have to follow before moving, and that also gives us an understanding that in 1 week we're not able to go from purple to red to yellow, or to orange to yellow. There's that padding of time that we have to maintain. When we're in yellow, we're able to then come back in a hybrid. And again, that is following the county guidelines of what yellow mandates in terms of number of cases, et cetera. We'll be able to extend or expand our cohorts in both of our orange and yellow, and then green will be full return. There's more data that I could, or more information that I could share about the staff, et cetera, being on site, but for you, and the questions that I asked, I felt that you were really quite interested in the cohorts and the instruction as we move through the tiers and how these decisions are being made and in what time frames, et cetera. I do want to point out that regardless of where we're at in our tiers and our state of COVID throughout this semester, option B is going to continue to be running its course. And so for those that are interested in option A, which is Mountain View High School, Los Altos High School, going back to site, at the beginning of this school year, we did a little comparison chart to help folks understand the difference between what option B offers compared to the sites. So just a brief overview on this. Going back to the sites means that our option B students will now have a whole new set of teachers. They'll be given teachers from Mountain View or Los Altos, depending on their site. A course schedule that shows you have these specific classes and you meet with your specific teacher at these specific times during the week. Attendance is taken. So that's the set schedule. The curriculum that is given is followed by the Common Core and NGSS and College Board, but created by our MVLA teachers and their course teams. The curriculum is paced by the teacher. So where option B was self-pacing, a student could work as faster on a class as they want, or slow in a class as they want. In option A, you're chiseling along right with where the teacher wants to have that pacing. So on these days are these tests, and these other days, these assignments are due. And roughly about 5 to 8 hours per class per week is, and that includes homework, et cetera, is spent in option A, so Mountain View, Los Altos. Letter grades are given, attendance is taken in Aries. You get a phone call home if the student is missing a class. You need to make a phone call to the attendance office or an email to the attendance office. If your child will not be attending school or a class that day, so we could verify the attendance. The grade books goes back to Aries. Again, the pacing is set by the teacher. Extracurriculars, just like option B, extracurriculars are open to the students to continue with their clubs. Just like option B, they have full support to the tutorial center, their academic counselors, the mental health support. They no longer will have their MVLA mentor teacher working with them, but they do have their regular teachers, and they have office hours where they can attend office hours on Tuesdays and Fridays to get extra help if they would like that from a teacher. In option A, we will match the classes that a student has in option B to the classes in option A. So if a student is taking 10th grade English, then they would be given 10th grade World Comp. And if a student is taking Algebra 2 Honors, we'd put them in Algebra 2 Honors. French 2, French 2. Where's AP Bio, would put them in AP Bio. So where some challenges could arise is where they're taking a class like art history. Option A doesn't have an art history, so we'd have to take a look at the other options of electives that a student would like to take in replacement of the class that's offered in option B that's not offered in option A. So there may be a small shift in the schedule that way. If a student wants to, let's say a student's in AP Human Geography, and they go back to the site high school and that class is full, there's no space for them in that particular class. We'll allow the student to continue, if they wish, to take that class in option B so that they can get the full scope of the curriculum for the entire year. Of course, you can decide to just stop at that point, but what we can't do in option A is overload classes or open up new sections. And so we have this backup to where a student can continue a particular class if it's full, and I don't predict that that's going to be very many, but it may be one or two. And so want to make sure that we're able to offer options to support the students. So if you're interested in switching back to option A, I sent last week an email that has this information, and following this webinar or this meeting today, I'll send out another email probably tomorrow morning that contains this video, some information that we shared on this video, these slides, but also some of these links like the switching back to Site High School from option B for second semester link. And this is where you fill this information out. I give the student's name to their counselor, and their counselor is going to reach out and be in communication to enrolling the student into the Mountain View or the Los Altos classes. We really would like to have that done by the end of this semester, so by the 18th. This should be solidified. However, again, you know, we're here to work with you and make sure that you and your child are supported. And so if you have some questions about option A, coming back, etc., send me an email. I'm happy to talk one-on-one and iron out any other questions that you may have that you don't feel you get from this meeting. And then lastly, switching back to option A, students will attend their MVLA classes second semester according to the schedule that is given to them. Right now we'll continue a block schedule where Mondays are odd classes, Tuesdays even, Wednesday is completely asynchronous, Thursdays odd, Fridays even with 75-minute classes. Office hours are at the end of days on Thursday and Friday. And the end of the semester will be on June 4th. So now transitioning to option B. So that was the conclusion of option A, and I'm happy to take questions at the end of this meeting for any other information that you would like to learn about option A. But going into option B, I took some of the questions that were given to me and I paired into this info sheet. So second semester in option B will be aligned, just like it was this semester with, well, this semester there's a small shift with Mountain View and Los Altos. So the semester begins on January 5th. I will be enrolling students into their Edgenuity and UC Scout classes over the break. So on that Tuesday, January 5th, they're ready to start their classes. On June 4th, which is the last day of the MVLA second semester, will be the last day of our Edgenuity and UC Scout classes. I'm going to hold office hours on Wednesday. I'm doing orientation for students new to option B on Tuesday. So I'm holding office hours from 8 till 4 on the 6th for students who want to come and ask a question, there's an issue in a class, etc. So we have open drop-in for that. More information will be shared, by the way. The classes that our option B students will see second semester will be pretty much the same classes that they have right now. A lot of the classes that the students have has an A at the end of them that signifies that that's a part one of two-part classes, the first semester out of second. So next semester that A will change to a B, showing that they're now in the second half of that class. So their math, their science, their history, their world language, so on and so forth, they'll continue in those same classes. They may have a new class. So there are a couple of elective classes that are semester classes. And so if that's the case, then they will be reached out to choose a new elective. Some of the classes are elective classes, are semester classes at which the class is over at the semester. Health is an example that is a semester class. and world studies, which in option B is called modern world history. That is also a semester class. The student only needs 5 credits to go on their MVLA transcript for graduation. So they may have a semester class that finishes the semester and they don't necessarily need to refill it, or maybe they do want to take an elective and continue to get some credits to move forward with the graduation credits. I do ask that you please check in with your child on their classes at the beginning of the semester. Just one more set of eyes ensures that all of these classes are there and they're ready to go with everything that they need for that very beginning of the semester. What kind of changes may we see between the first and the second semester? Minimal changes, so maybe some small shifts in the classes like I just noted. Other changes would be a much smaller learning curve for us all as we're going into the second semester. And I say that with a smile, but I really mean that sincerely and genuinely, that you know, the beginning of this semester, we started a week after because of the Edgenuity and UC Scout needing to upload the classes from our regular Mountain View Los Altos students, although we are also finishing a week later to compensate that for that time. There was some textbook bumps, there was some learning curves of how the program worked and reaching out to the teachers. There was the learning curve of finding the routine and settling into the routine, and a lot of first time learning curves that I know moving into second semester, it'll be much more ease of a transition and feel comfortable of knowing the landscape and having that peripheral vision that can really start out strong. So what stays the same for second semester? Well, again, the process of how the classes work, how the communication with the teachers, the mentor teachers, et cetera, works, the infrastructure of Edgenuity and UC Scout, you know, how their classes are rolled out, their assessments, et cetera, all stay the same. The mentor teacher meetings will continue, where the mentor teacher is meeting weekly with students unless the student and the mentor teacher decide and every other week works better, etc. Help and support still stays the same. That includes the MVLA tutorial centers. That includes using the one-on-one meetings with their teacher, emailing their teacher, communicating to their mentor teachers, having the academic counselors as support as well. A couple questions about engagement, and I would love to hear from folks in the chat too of thoughts or ideas for supporting our option B students in engagement. Option B is completely asynchronous. A student is never attending a class where they are talking live with their peers or their teacher. They talk live with their teacher if they set up a one-on-one. So right now with option B, the engagement that we have set up and that we're encouraging our students is, first of all, that weekly mentor meeting where they're sitting down, they're talking about life, they're sharing a laugh, they're sharing a celebration. And then they're also talking about how the progress is going and how their classes are and what kind of questions that they can problem solve with them. The engagement is also going to continue to participate in MVLA clubs and activities and extracurriculars, encouraging them to get involved. I know this past week, Mountain View did some lunchtime or Wednesday activities that were virtual. Los Altos is doing the same, I think, this week. And encouraging our students to get involved that way. I know being an option B, the whole email was a little bit challenging to navigate. You're getting a lot of emails about option A, weren't sure which of these really pertain to you and your student, which of them you could just disregard. Then you got emails from me, and there's a whole, you know, slew of confusion sometimes. And unfortunately, students and parents will continue to be on that list of emails that go out to the site. We're not able to remove and set up just a specific program with our email mass. My biggest encouragement would be to email me to just double check, does this regard us, or can I just put this into the trash of my email? And so, you know, with that, I guess is where I'm going with this, is that our students do get emails about the clubs and the activities that go out, and I do encourage that they participate in those. They also get emails about our Wednesday attendance activities, which attendance is not taken for our option B students with option A. However, we are releasing social emotional learning modules every week. And those learning modules are great in helping students identify stress within them, have some small techniques or tools to work through some stress. That's part of what the first module is on, and then expands into a variety of other skills. And our students are encouraged to participate in those learning, social emotional learning modules. And lastly, the last semester, I held a couple of synchronous lunches where Option B students could join me, could play some games, could go into some breakout rooms, could just sit and synchronously talk to our peers by grade levels. It wasn't very well attended, and that's okay, right? This is a learning curve for us all, and it's very new. Not sure if that's something that is what the students want me to continue. So again, open to ideas from you, as well as, I gave surveys to the students to get some ideas on engagement. And lastly, communication. You do receive weekly email updates. There's one in the queue to be sending out to you for this. From me on Option B updates. It usually has about 6, 7, 8 bulleted items. Some of them are repeated to make sure that we are hearing it, and some of them are new, and then I archive some of the old ones. Periodic surveys. So I gave students 2 surveys. I gave the parent a survey. I'll continue doing the same next semester, just to hear from you and the students, the insight, the challenges, the celebrations. The mentor teacher is going to continue to be a communication between the student and to myself. And sometimes if there's concerns, then they reach out to the parents. Communication to me, I always encourage. So if you have any concerns or want to set up a meeting, I'm here to support you and your student. So please don't hesitate. And that was that last piece, the one-on-one meeting. So, last year, or at the beginning of the semester, I gave an overview of the Option B program, and I gave screenshots of what Edgenuity looks like when we went into that. When we go into the program. This time I was just given an overview of the big picture of Option B and what this looks like for second semester, and where we're at with communication and changes and such. If there's more information that you would like to hear about Option B, again, please drop those questions in the chat. I'm happy to dive deeper into the program, etc. if folks need. I just didn't see that in any of the questions, so I wanted to make sure I was tending to the needs in the hour that we're together this evening. So folks who are interested in staying in Option B for second semester, here are the steps in doing so. The email that I sent last week, and I'll again follow that up this week with that information, as well as this video, is to fill out the application of continuing in Option B. That communicates to me that the student will be staying in Edgenuity and or UC Scout. And if I have questions, I'll reach out about specific classes. Otherwise, I'll be enrolling them in their same classes, as these are some year-long classes, not semester classes. So it would be as if at Mountain View, you're in bio and algebra 2 and history and English for the whole year, right? You don't at the semester change classes. So again, I would just put them in their same classes just for the second half into Option B. If there is a change that one is interested in, as an example, I had somebody that has emailed me and asked to change from AP to regular for second semester. So requests like that, definitely communicate that with me, please. Students will be enrolled in, like I said, into their same classes, and classes will begin on January 5th, and the semester ends on January 4th. So at this time, we had a brief overview of Option A and where the district is at, and having conversations about distance learning and cohorts and possible hybrids. We took a look at moving back to Option A, classes, counselor, communication, process. We took a look at Option B and what this means for next semester, as well as the process. And so I would like to pause the presentation at this point and open it up to questions or comments that folks have. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chat, and I'll start from here. So the soonest from yellow to green is 10 weeks, purple to green is 10 weeks. I have not done the math, but if that is giving 10 weeks in each tier, then yes, that is the soonest that one could move. And so that gives you an idea that we will be staying in purple and red, maybe not even dabbling into orange until at least February, right? And that is if things are progressing quickly. What happens in the spring if a student in option B didn't make much progress in their class in the fall? Will they need to do both the first and second half of the spring? So that's a very good conversation, or a very good question. If a student had challenges in multiple classes in option B, I have already reached out over this past weekend to communicate concerns. I'll be sending another email and double checking that option B is the right choice and program for the student, seeing that perhaps multiple classes were a challenge. Would not want to see a repeat, and at the end of the school year now we have multiple classes that are full year behind, not just a semester. So that's one thing that I'll be doing for students who are in that boat. If it's just a class, then it could be something to where we talk about summer school making up that class. It could be something where the class schedule allows to add an additional class into their schedule. And so, yeah, you could concurrently take both halves at the same time. It's not ideal, but Edgenuity does allow it, and it could be a possible option. And it's not a black or white type of answer. A lot of shades of gray here, and I really want to take a look at how many classes we're talking about and which are the classes and what grade level the student is in, is what are all of our options to support them next semester academically and social, emotionally, mentally in their current second semester classes, and then what does that mean for any of those classes that we have to make up from the first semester. Never knew about the lunches. So I sent a couple of emails to the students and a survey as well about the synchronous lunches. And I didn't include, I'm trying to remember if I included it in an option B update. I think I did. I included that in an option B update as well. I started to do option B updates to students as well as to parents. But I found that the information was so similar that I decided to just starting to merge and just having one option B update. And that may have been during the time where I was doing the option B updates to students only towards the earlier half of the school year. So that's all of the questions that are in the chat. Okay, a couple more have come in. Any chance that a student doing particularly well with option B continuing with Edgenuity next fall? We are having conversations about, I'd like to change the name option B. It definitely is a great term right now, as you know, in the pandemic, it creates an alternative option to students who may need to be returning to the site high schools for hybrid, et cetera. So it's a different option, but hopefully we're back in the fall. Who necessarily knows exactly these days, but we are having conversations of continuing a program just like option B, regardless if we are completely back health and safely traditionally into the program. We do see a lot of benefits of offering a program like this beyond the pandemic. We're still in the conversations. There needs to be approval and all of that, but thank you for asking that. That is something that we're discussing. Okay. Well, I am not sure if you feel that you have gotten all your questions answered. And I want to note that if something comes up after this meeting and you want to reach out, please feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to continue these conversations. I'm going to pause that and answer a couple more questions here. This is just a couple of compliments, so thank you so much. Somebody said, okay, perfect, thank you. If a student were to move to option A, would they be able to join band in the middle of the year? Without checking with my band teachers, I'm going to say yes, because I have students as assistant principal. I have had students move into our district halfway through the semester, or even halfway through second semester, right? Halfway through the year, or even into a semester. And they do go into band at that time. And this is no different, right? This is moving from one program to another. If anything, we're even more closely knit as being part of the MVLA community. And so they can continue in the band. If it's a particular band where there's auditioning or some sort of selective process, that is a question that we'd have to defer to the band directors for. But if it's an entry-level band, just like the other students, like I said, that move into the district and join band, absolutely, we put them into those instrumental musics. Will the selection of classes for option B students for next fall happen as it has previously? Will the selection of classes for next fall happen as it previously has? I'm gonna just double check if I'm reading this correctly. I believe this person is referring to if option B continues into the fall, will the selection of classes happen the same way that they did this year? And please correct me if I'm reading that wrong. Most likely not. I would be wanting an assistant. I would be wanting a counselor. The selection process this fall was something that I would like to see refined and strengthened, and it becomes something that we would see more as what happens at our site high schools with the selection of classes. So if I'm reading that right, that, for option B, UC Scout semester is ending January 13th. Is that right? I have reached out to the students and noted that it's a January 4th end date. It has been communicated this whole time that option B ends on the 28th. I understand that some students thought because they were in UC Scout, they didn't apply to that. So I'm giving them a little bit more leeway with January 4th for that very reason. UC Scout cannot control their dates on their platform. I noted at the very beginning of this year that our semester for UC Scout ended on the 28th, and I was not aware that that didn't show up until I had a parent and a student reach out to me asking for clarification. And then I immediately reached out to UC Scout and asked for clarification, and that is what I found. If there's any challenges with that, again, I ask that you reach out to me personally, and I'm happy to continue this conversation to hear the concerns and how I can support. So when does Edgenuity grades lock? On the 28th. So the 28th is the last day of their classes. So they lock basically on the 29th. At that point, I get the transcripts and we'll begin adding in the grades into MVLA transcripts from Edgenuity and then eventually UC Scout. What you'll see in the MVLA transcript is it'll say Mountain View, it'll be, still Mountain View student, still a Los Altos student, but the class will have a DL at the end of it that notes that it was in option B. So let's say they're taking chemistry, it'll say chemistry DL, and algebra 2 DL, English language arts 10 DL. So that points out what the specific class was that they took, but there's still a student within our district. Yep, okay, I think I answered that question. Just gonna pause for a moment to see if there's anybody else. All right. Well, please, again, don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions, even if it's after the 18th or the 28th. I think communication is important even over the transition of a break, as we need to be ready to have our students in their classes on that January 5th. And so little questions, big questions over that break, please feel free to send them to me, as I want to make sure that we're supporting your child and tending to their best needs during this crazy time. Trying to make it a little less crazy is everybody's goal, and I appreciate all of your support. I know that option B is all hands on deck for many of our students, and that you have provided wonderful support and check-ins for your students and advocates for their needs during these times. So I really appreciate your support and help with this as well. And with that being said, I bid you a good night. Oh, I do have one more thing. I just want to remind us all that, as I noted before, these are very challenging times for us all. I ask that we take extra precautions to be safe for ourselves, for each other, be citizens, and those that we don't even know, by just tending to small little recommendations from our county and our state Department of Health of how we can be safe. As well, I ask that we all be well. Take time for yourself, whether it's 5 minutes to just sit and quiet and breathe, or a short walk, or an extra 15 minutes of sleep every now and then. But give yourself some love as well as be safe out there. So again, thank you everybody for joining. I'll send out this video for those who want to review, or for those who were not able to attend tonight. And take care. Thank you.